Things are great. I am now on my, I think, ninth day in Oklahoma City, and it's going great. The softball has been absolutely phenomenal, Women's College World Series.
Yeah,
And we're recording this on, I literally don't know what day of the week it is. What day is this?
it is Wednesday.
Okay, it's Wednesday. So we are starting the championship series tonight versus Oklahoma and Texas. So we just left meetings with Oklahoma and the Longhorns, and I just think it's going to be absolutely epic. How are you? What's happening?
Nice. Same old, same old. Did some shows. One was fine. The other one was good. Yeah, that's about it.
Tell the people what kind of shows you're doing.
Um, I did one of them was kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Basically like a Dr. Phil meets Jimmy Fallon kind of Tonight Show type deal about exes and relationships. Um, and it didn't quite hit. We're gonna put that one back in the hopper, work on that one again. But the improv show went really well.
How good. So
Yeah.
when you go up to do the show, like how scripted is it or how written is it? Or are you just winging it?
I mean, it's not, I don't have any written jokes. Like what we say isn't completely scripted, but the scenarios and like I had a pretty strict outline for us and for the format. But then, we were kind of doing it was quasi improv, quasi like a sketch, and the audience, there wasn't that many people and they all knew us all very well. So it kind of made it so that the sketch doesn't work as well because there's only one kind of joke. And so
Is
it
that
was,
you're the talk show host? You're the talk show host and you're interviewing your exes?
yes. And
Oh,
it wasn't a real ex. So that kind of undercut it a little bit because they were just like, well, we know her. She's dating your co host. So, like, so it just made it so we just kind of had to bail out of like the main joke. And then it ended up being fun. But yeah. What are you going to do? You know?
jokes are hard. I feel like in some ways you and I have similar careers in that I can't ever really prepare for what I'm going to say on the air. Like I have an idea of my story, like you might have an idea of your joke, but
Yeah.
then you got to feel it and the moment might change. Like actually today I had one idea for my open and then we did interviews with players and I'm like, nope, I got to talk about something else because they're leading me there. So I think we have very fluid, like you got to have good ideas, you got to be light on your feet, you got to be able to get in there and do something quickly that could be funny and
Exactly.
then get out, get out.
Exactly. And it's yeah, when you can't get, it's always tough with like live perform. I've noticed one thing with me with live performance is I'll bail a little bit. I get a little bit like, see, this is dumb. You see how I don't think this is that great if it's not going well, which is a bad performer habit. It's kind of like just like a natural, just like, see, it's a joke. See, it's not real. It's a joke. And it kind of it ruined it a little bit.
Ruins
But,
your punchline.
a little bit, but we'll put it back in the hopper, and we'll keep on cooking on it.
I had a report this week. So Beth Mowens is our esteemed play-by-play person.
Yeah,
This is her 30th. Think about this, 30th Women's College World Series. So
it's
she
crazy.
is the voice of softball. She has all the record books. Like she has seen every great moment that's happened in 30 years. That is a lifetime. And so we were talking on the way over to the ballpark about what stories I was going to do, blah, 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 blah. And she kind of had a little idea for her opening. And I was like, wait, that goes with what I wanted to talk about. Can I steal it? And she's like, yes, you can steal it. And I came up with this great line of the Sooners aren't just trying not to end their season, they're trying not to end their career. Because if they lost 10 seniors on that team's career would be over. And she's like, oh, that's a good line. You can have it. You can have it. So I go and I do the report. I forget to end it with the great line. And so I just really felt like I let Beth Mullins down. But of course, she
Yeah.
picked me right up and she said it.
Okay, good.
So
Good.
I sent her a text. I was like, hey, thanks for cleaning me up on the backside. And then she really got a good laugh out of that because that doesn't sound that good when you think about it.
No, no, that's a little innuendo goes a long way.
Bum.
But
Innuendo, cleaning me up on the backside. I see
yeah,
where you're
there you
going
go.
with that.
There you go. There you go.
So I wanted to ask you about something. You went to see the Liberty play. I have I don't think I've
Oh
turned
yeah,
you into a WNBA fan. I think you've turned yourself into a WNBA fan.
yeah,
You are a true
yeah.
blue
We talked
Liberty
about
fan
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But you got to go see your first game of the season. So I wanted to hear your
Yeah.
takeaways of your first W game of the year.
First things first, the Fever terrible. Let's just get that right out of the top. They
These
were
comments are not endorsed by his mother, Holly Rowe. Thank
their
you.
opinions. We can have our opinions. They're terrible. Like they got beat by they were trailing by like close to 30 points the entire game. I think the ending score was like 97 to 62 or 66. Like it was just and like you it was just bad, you know?
Now there was some context for it though, because Caitlin Clark got injured, only had 3 points in that game. Aaliyah Boston also got
She
injured. There was context.
the whole first like 2 quarters that she played, she made 1 3. So whatever. She was in the game for a long time and made no difference. The team's just bad. This happens. It happens. Like she hit 1 3, missed like four, and then was injured. Like it. That's
Let's
just the
not
name of
say
the
they're
game.
bad. Let's say they're growing and
They're
learning.
terrible.
McKylin. But here's what I want to say. So we just had this long conversation with Patty Gasso, the coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. They are going for their fourth straight national championship. A four-peat's never been done in this sport. It is
Yeah, that's
hard
crazy.
to go back to back, let alone back to back to back, let alone back to back to back to back. And she actually broke down and cried and talked about the pressure that these young people, these young women that are 22 years old, are under because people expect them to be great all the time. And she's like, our team, our softball team has changed the game. These seniors, 10 seniors on that team, have won 3 championships and have changed the game. But all they're getting is hate and criticism and like really negative stuff on social media. So I guess my reaction to you is, I don't know if this is wrong or right, but I just have a hard time being mean to young women. I
I'm not
probably
being
wouldn't
mean
say
to.
that
That's
to
okay. That's not fair. That's no, 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 no. I'm not being
I'm not
mean
saying
to
you're being
young
mean.
women.
I'm not
Some
saying you
First
are.
off, some of these women are grown adults. Like,
I was saying the rest of the world in like the conversation about how we talk about young people on social media. It's crazy.
yes. Well, I mean, we talked a bunch about this, and like, I don't want to just be stuck in that a circle of talking about this. But social media is just bad. So, like, it's just bad. All the people on there are just saying the worst possible thing because there's no accountability. So that sucks. Whatever. We'll put that over in this box. Um, One thing I feel about that's happening with the WNBA a little bit is like it's really getting an influx of all these new fans and stuff, and it's a lot of fans that are just like fans of women in general. Like just that kind of crowd. And so one thing I want to just impart is that like with a men's team, if you were just like the Knicks freaking blow, they're terrible. People are like, yeah, well, they're not having a good season. It wouldn't have anything to do with the makeup of the players. You're not racist because you're saying the predominantly black team is bad. You know what I mean? That has nothing to do
Right.
with it. We're just looking at
Yeah.
what they're doing. And right now, what they're doing wise, the Fever suck. It happens.
Honey. Uh,
But
I get it. I
it's
get it.
just
You're right though.
why are you
It's
getting
a very
emotional
good
about
point.
it? It
It's a very good
they are bad
it sounds harsh to me. And I guess I
because
guess
they're
what you're
bad.
saying,
The Browns are
we get it.
bad.
We get it. You don't have to keep going on.
I'm sorry.
Um,
The Browns are
but
bad.
when you say no, they're not. They got to the playoffs last year.
Did
When
the
you
Browns get to the
get
playoffs?
yes, they did.
Oh, nice.
The when you just say a team sucks, like I do agree with you when you say it about a men's team or a pro team or like the New York Knicks, you expect them to be a little more hardened or a little more
Yeah, they're
calloused
not.
to the world or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just get to be around these young women. They're 20 years old, 21, 22 years old, and they feel like the weight of the world on their shoulders. I don't know why I feel that way. I do feel that way. And I don't know if that's gender.
Well, it kind of just takes the fun out of the
I don't know.
sports.
Maybe it's
It's just a game, and they're just playing. Like I know that it means a lot, and there is a lot of pressure. But I think
mhm.
when we take it away from being like, it's also a fun thing, you know?
Right. Yeah,
They
but
get
nobody wants to hear that they suck. Nobody wants to hear that they suck.
okay, well,
They
people
they
hear that they
know.
suck
They
every
already know.
day. Yeah, I mean, they're not listening to this. But like, hey, if the Liberty sucked, I'd be like, ah, damn, they suck. Like, it's kind of it's a
It's your
team. It's
fandom.
not. It's your
It's
and
your
like I'm
personal
also
fandom. Yeah.
and also like if somebody's playing like if Stewie was playing bad, I'd be like Stewie, what happened? Yikes! You know what I mean? It's a we should have a little bit of joviality and fun with it. It's not
Yeah.
when you bring in this self seriousness to these, especially sports, and like I feel this way about like acting and comedy, right? When people in like acting are being so self serious, I'm like 90% of this is playing pretend. Like, yes, art is important and sports is important and representation is important. But if you sap the fun out of it and only focus on the importance, it stops being important and it starts being this other thing, and it starts being
Yeah,
just
at
kind
the
of
end
like,
of the day, it's entertainment, right? At the
yeah,
end of the day, it's entertainment.
yeah,
And these young people shouldn't take it like, oh, they're saying I suck as a human being. But I do think it's hard for people to separate. And I do see a lot of these young athletes having major, major, major mental health challenges
yeah,
because I think it's hard to have a world of critics. I think that's hard.
yeah. Well, I mean, everybody in like that's kind of I think that's something that I don't know. I'm not famous, but I think that's kind of a deal you kind of make as well, especially now, more so now than
Mm-hmm.
ever. Like if you are willing to like put the world like put the world's eye on you, you kind of have to be ready for the fact that like we see it every day with even that guy. There was that thing that went viral where the guy was um showing up to court for like a Zoom. He was zooming into court
Oh my gosh, I saw this
and he was in his car and
for
he
a
was
suspended driver's license.
for a
So
suspended driver's
he
license
had a court Zoom on a suspended driver's license, and he called into the Zoom doing what?
while he was driving. But so then everybody was like, "Oh, look at this! It was great. It was a hilarious story." 2 days later, you find out that it had been a bunch of municipal errors or something that had happened that made it so that he hadn't been able to renew his license for 2 years, and it wasn't actually his fault, and it was a court. The court was just messing up, and so then it's like,
Oh,
oh,
really?
yeah. So then it's like, oh, so we were all getting mad at this guy, or
How
not, but
dumb he
making
was.
fun of, being like, oh,
Right.
this idiot, and it's like, oh no, the court system was being stupid. But that's just the way of being famous and getting into this eye. It's like 90% negative, but that 10% is amazing. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
guess you have to want the good and the bad, but
you have to kind of sign that contract. Like you wanted to be in this eye. So you wanted to you're getting deals with Adidas or Nike or Puma, you're getting money or some people are on SNL and you know that comes with there's a bunch of people who now they feel like they have a connection with you and own you and they might be rude to you.
yeah. It's
It's just
interesting.
kind of part of the deal.
Like I do think I'm a sports fan. I have teams, when I was growing up as a kid that I rooted for. I don't get to root much anymore because I'm working so many games and you want to be impartial. But I do also truly believe, like, of all the things I believe in the world, the thing I believe the most in, the very most thing that I believe with all of my heart, and I will always believe, is karma, is what you put
Yeah.
out into the world, that energy comes back to you. And so if you're going to be that fan that's awful on social media and tearing down people, particularly young people, I think you got to ask yourself what kind of energy you're putting into the world and how that's coming back to you.
I'll say it right now.
That's my other part.
There's one thing to like saying like a team sucks. I just think the team kind of just played bad. They haven't figured out their chemistry. They just weren't. Not everything was working. Caitlin gets hurt. That's not a good reason for you to lose by 30 points. It's one player. She's not scoring 30 points by herself. Like there's a million different things. The team just needs some work. I'm only talking about the team. I'm not speaking ill of any of the players or the coaching or any of that.
Right, 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 right.
Right? It's just like it's just the thing that you're trying. You're not making it. I think the karmic bad thing, especially that's kind of what we're talking about, is when you're if you're being mean to specific people, I
Mm-hmm.
think that when all you're doing is being negative, you're noticing the negative in other people, and that's probably priming your brain to just notice negative, notice negative, notice negative. And then if you're constantly looking at negative in other people, then you're looking at negative in your life. And then all that is ever happened to you is negative. You're seeing all the it's the glass half full versus glass half empty kind of conversation. Like my room's always dirty, or oh, I always know where my stuff is, and I got to clean a little bit more. It's those two different mindsets. And so if you're just instead of looking at basketball like, oh, they played a bad game, this team needs to get their stuff together. Ah, ha, 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 fun. That's okay because it's a positive. They're gonna get better, entertaining. If you're like the team sucks and you know what, those dumb young girls, blah, then you obviously have something wrong with you.
Hmm.
A, go to talk to
Hmm.
somebody because everything in your life is gonna suck because you're gonna make it suck because you're just looking at things
That's how
poorly.
you view the world. Yeah, it's interesting because I've always wondered about, it's one thing to say something mean on social media, and we'll get off social media, but that's where people are voicing their feelings and opinions. It's not just social media, it's where the fans are speaking. It's one thing to say something negative to your friends or in the stands, or like, oh, I can't believe that defense or whatever. It is another thing to go and seek out someone's username on social media and attack them personally with a directed message that you have copied them on, right? Like you're literally
Yeah,
copying them on the stuff that you're saying that's so mean.
it's
I
a
think
waste of
that
time.
takes a really evil kind of person to
Yeah,
go
you're
and
just
seek someone out just to be mean to them.
I'll
That's
say
that's
this to
bad.
anybody who's doing that, you're a loser. You're a
Yeah.
freaking loser. Go outside, put your feet in some sand or something. You're a loser. That's
And
just sad.
feel better about yourself.
Like,
So on this topic though, like I like where you were headed with this because I wanted to bring this up. I sent you something this week that I thought was so fascinating. So I met this guy that's a kind of motivational speaker. He, goes in and does corporate motivational speaking. His name's Justin Sua. He is a BYU guy. And so I started following him and I see some of the stuff he's putting on social media. And I loved this thing he put out. He was having a conversation with three baseball players.
mhm,
And he said, I think baseball players, and I would add softball players into this, have a unique relationship with failure because the way baseball averages and softball averages work, if you're a 400 hitter, that means you're hitting the ball 4 out of 10 times you get up to bat, you're considered success. So that means 60% of the time you're having to deal with failure in your daily job and game that you're playing.
yeah,
And he told this story that I just thought was so fascinating about the founder of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. So Spanx, you know what Spanx are, right?
hmm.
Have you ever worn Spanx?
Do they make Spanx for men? No, I've
Yes,
never
they
worn
do.
Spanx. No,
Okay, they
go
do
ahead.
make Spanx for men.
And
Women,
yeah,
I've worn Spanx. They kind of suck you in a little bit, just make you feel a little more confident about
well,
the old
I yeah,
rollerooskies. When she talked about why she thinks she's been successful, she told the story of her father when she would get home from school every day. He would say, hey, how was your day? Tell me something you failed at. And I thought that was so interesting because I think this generation of parents today, myself included, we're the helicopter, we try to
you were
swoop in
not a
and save our
helicopter
kids.
parent.
I was being nice with that. The parents who are younger than me are worse, but I was a little bit. I have some examples of when I would call your teacher or intervene inappropriately. But anyway,
Like
um,
twice.
the dad would say, "Tell me something you failed at." And the moral to that story is, if you weren't failing at things, it meant you weren't trying new things and challenging yourself. And
Hmm.
so the relationship with failure and learning how to be resilient is actually a healthy one, and that we need to let our children fail and to figure out how to get back up themselves and how to try again and to push them. And by making it okay to fail, you'll try more things, right? Then you're more
Yeah,
likely to try something. So I
yeah.
wondered about your thoughts on that, on allowing your children to fail. How would that help you, and how do you
I
think
mean, I don't have
parents
any
should do?
children, so I can't really
No,
speak
I
to
mean,
allowing
like,
my
how
child.
have I helped you? I should say, how have I helped you fail? But how have you learned from failure in your life, I guess?
Oh, I fail all the time. One of the shows was a failure. I was a little mad about it, but then I had a good show. I
But you tried it, right? So the point is,
Yeah.
you tried this show and got up on a stage and put yourself out there and you were vulnerable and you tried it.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't a success, but you tried it. That's the point.
I think life is just more fun. I mean, I'm a pretty cautious person. I'm coming to realize with certain things. I'm a little cautious, I'm a little anxious, but I will say that like I've kind of tried a lot of stuff in my time, and I just think it's more fun. You just have more story. Like I was telling, some of it's not exactly being cautious or uncautious, but like I'm very much just like say whatever pops in your head, just kind of live freely. I'll tell a funny anecdote. I went to meet an ex girlfriend's family one time, and for she had I think it was like an uncle named Keith, and there's a Family Guy episode where at one point they're like, "What's the ugliest name in the human language?" And they answer Keith, and then the vault opens. It's very funny, whatever. So when I meet this guy Keith, I'm like, "Oh hey, what's up? I'm Mac," and he's like, "Oh hi, I'm Keith," and I was like, "Oh, have you ever seen that episode of Family Guy where they say that Keith is the ugliest name in the human language?" And he was like, "No, I've never seen that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was
Pedal
like,
back, pedal back, pedal back, pedal back,
no,
pedal.
and I think that's I think a lot of my personality is just like you can fail in converse, like never, you should never be worried about unless you're saying something hateful, like being worried about what you're saying and how you're coming off, I think is kind of a waste of time because then you don't really know where you and the world meet, if you're constantly like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? How do I act? How do I act? What do I do? How do I act? What do I do? How do I act? You're never actually kind of being like, well, this is how I thought to act. This is what happened. You don't get that data. And then you don't really know how to be yourself anymore because you keep trying not, you're fighting yourself so much to interact with the real world. And then you kind of get this barrier, which like social media makes even worse, where you have this barrier of being yourself and what the world is, and it's like a psychosis almost. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're just like with that little anecdote, that was just the first thought that popped in my head. I don't meet a lot of Keiths, and
Clearly.
I don't think it's the ugliest name in the human language. I just think that's a funny, like, yeah, isn't it funny that your name was in a it's in a it's
Family Guy episode?
there's a joke about your name, but
Not amused.
that's my personality. That's who and like honestly, if like the guy avoided me the rest of the night, I'm like, that's fine. Like if that was gonna make it so you don't want to chat with me anymore, we're not gonna have a good conversation. I was myself, and myself met the world, and things were fine. And I think that's a big.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like in the terms of failure, like being afraid to fail in those situations, especially with those in bigger situations. That's a bigger conversation that we'll keep talking about. But I think being the fear of failure kind of kills success,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right. Because you'll never succeed if you don't try something. And if the
Yeah,
fear of failure keeps you from trying something, you will literally never succeed.
exactly. Be bold. Try new stuff. Like I'm not very bold with like food, let's say. Mostly because
Start a podcast with your child. See what happens. That's a bold
see
move.
how that goes. Like it's everything is always kind of move out to New York to try to be an actor and a writer and a stand-up. I failed like 3, 4, 30, 500 times a year. That's my job basically. But that's all of our jobs. If we were
But it just takes the once to keep you going. And if you keep
Yeah,
going, then I don't think you are failing because resilience is the greatest skill that I think I've ever learned in my life. And the failures are teaching you resilience. So I think it's a beautiful cycle.
and you get every time you fail, if you're being thoughtful and present, you get better at it. Like I want to fail really well. If I'm failing poorly, that means that like it just happened and I went to my shell and I got scared and I never did that thing again. If you're failing well, okay, that didn't work. What do we do to change it to make it work? You know, try
Yeah,
some more.
there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So I did not do any topics today, honey, because I'm kind of right in the middle of getting ready for this big game tonight, game one of the Champ Series. You can watch us on ESPN, 7 Central Time. So stop it. Did you just make that up? That was your.
That was one of mine. Thanks. You just brought
That
that
was
up.
one of your topics for today was failure.
Yeah. All
My
right.
gosh, it never ceases to amaze me. Sometimes we are on the same brain wavelength. I love it so much.
I think it works. It's that mom sunburn. Okay, well, since you don't
Okay.
have one, I have two, but they're not great. I was like, oh, I'll do three. Okay, so I have this one, hot weather fashion,
Oh my gosh, I can speak to this
big one.
very clearly because I've been in Oklahoma City where I'm just telling you, sometimes I feel like I'm melting.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. So the challenge here is how can I look like I have clothes on and cover up the bits and pieces without having actually too many clothes on?
That's it's I don't like wearing shorts when I go out per se. Like I think I just don't like having that much leg exposed. I don't want to get stuff in my I don't want to spill anything. Like if something splashed on the street, it gets on my leg. I just
Ugh.
don't yeah, it's gross. I don't love it. But then I can't wear pants because if I wear pants, it's just a furnace down there. And so and then like it's a whole thing. So I just thought it was I mean, it's not that interesting, honestly, but it's just I feel like
No,
it.
it's funny. I have found, so I think the number one tip I will give you all for hot weather fashion is fabric matters.
Yeah.
Like the fabric you're wearing, the more breathable it is. I just found this pair of Puma sweats that is basically like tissue paper. It might be the best thing I've ever had on my body. Puma, this fabric, it's so thin and breathable. So I would say fabric. But then the other thing I would say about men, foot fashion. So I get really grossed out. This is my own shortcoming in life. I hate seeing men's feet. I don't want to see your feet in flip-flops because very few men know that you need to get pedicures and actually care for your feet. So you have all the gross toes and gross feet out in the flip-flops or in the
Hey,
slides.
women also can have gross feet. Let's just make sure
Yeah,
that
but
we keep
fewer
that.
women. Yeah, but fewer women have gross feet. I would say women do more pedicures than men. Fact. That is a fact.
Doesn't matter. I think we shouldn't see your feet unless we're in some sort of beachy or like kind of that kind of situation, like a warm area where you might pop the shoes off. If you're going to work or a workout class, put some damn shoes on. Cover up the toes. It's gross. Also, in New York City, why are you wearing open anything? The
Because the
streets smell
streets
of
are
pee.
dirty.
The
The
streets are
streets are dirty.
disgusting.
I know.
Why would you
I see
want
a
your
lot of
feet out?
people in flip flops, and I'm like, do you see how black the soles of your feet are getting in these flip flops? It's
Yeah,
gross.
just get some baby powder, put it in your shoes, and you don't have to wear socks. That's the best. That's the least. That's the lowest bar I'll give for. Don't wear. It's gross. Wear Tivas. You see people that have like
Hmm.
they'll take off their Tivas and there's just a scum line.
Oh, honey. Ugh,
Ugh,
ugh.
it's disgusting. Seen
It's
it.
disgusting. So please cover up your toes. I'm
Cover up
speaking
the
more to
toes.
men, and maybe I'm not being fair. Maybe this is my own gender bias, but the men, unless you've gone to get a pedicure and you know your feet look good, put them away. Put
I
them
just
away.
everybody lock those things up. Keep your dogs just away. We don't
All
need
right.
to see your feet.
Um, I had one more topic, but I was trying to decide if we should save it for next week. So it's our birthday week next week.
Oh, that was my
Um,
other. That was my other one.
was that your other topic? Stop. No, it. Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
Nailed it.
That's so funny. So we have a weird family thing where I'm born. Let's not say our dates because that might be too much personal information to give out on a podcast. But we are born within
You
exactly.
can Google our dates. It doesn't matter.
Let's just not say it, honey. We're born within exactly 1 week of each other. So we celebrate your birthday one day and then my birthday a week later. We're both very exact Geminis. So do you think that's good or bad? The
I
mother
don't think
son Gemini combination.
I personally don't think that that's real.
Oh, you don't believe in horoscopes?
No, I think there's,
What?
it's like with anything. The more you believe in it, the more you might get out of it. With everything, with religion, with tarot cards, whatever. It's confirmation bias. Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a bad week, and then you're like, well, I'm having a bad week. You're like, oh, the stars are in zoopity doop and so blippity bloppity's gonna make it so that I need to make a big change in my life this week. And then you're looking for things that you're just like you're hearing it and then you're doing it, you know?
The
So
stars are zippity zlop. The stars
th-
are zippity zlop. That's a
I
quote.
don't know. I'm
Um,
uneducated.
here's why I believe in horoscopes. I believe in environment. So I believe if we're June babies and the day that we're born and the few days we come home from the hospital, it's bright and sunny and we're not in a lot of
It's
clothes
not
because it's
astrology.
hot. Yes, it is. It's how the planets are.
That's
It's where the sun
seasons.
is.
That's just seasons. That's just like if it's cold times, then it's what that doesn't have anything to do about being a Gemini. May babies are in hot times.
Astrology is where the
I
planetary
know, but that
alignment
has
is.
you're talking about the environment. Astrology has nothing to do if you're warm or cold when you come home.
It's the time of year. It's the seasons. It's where
But
what
then
was
everybody
happening in
would be in
nature.
we would be in four there would be four houses. There's like 30 to 12. I think it's
Anyway,
12.
let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. So I do believe that there's something about, if you come home and it's cold and the first 6 months of your life, you're bundled up the whole time and you don't go outside, you don't get outdoor time or, depending on where you live, all those different things. But I do think your environment impacts you as a child.
Not astrologically, no, but I do agree your environment impacts you as a child. There's the whole nature versus nurture. If you grow up in a warm place, you probably are a little bit more like calmer. I've noticed like a lot of the people I grow up with, or not grow up with, that I experienced that grew up in New York and stuff, or in like kind of like metropolitan areas, they're a little faster. They're a little bit more impatient. They're a little bit more definitive, make choices a little faster. Whereas people that grow up in Western states or in warmer states and kind of like lower key places, a little more lackadaisical. You come to conclusions. You like to think about stuff a little bit. You take a little bit more time thinking about it. Just your ticker is just a little different. I agree with that. I think that is a very real thing. That has nothing to do with when Venus was in Zip, and then oh no, I'm an Aries, so I have a fiery spirit. The
Well,
astrology people are gonna if I get hate from astrology
you're
people,
going to get canceled by astrologers. You're going
I
to get
can't get canceled by a fake religion. That's not fair.
anyway, to each their own. Whatever you believe in, that's great. I do believe I am a classic Gemini. I am a twin to the nth degree, outgoing, sunny disposition, super positive. I think I am a total Gemini because I am so great and I'm so happy. But when I'm not, watch out. It takes a lot to get. I feel like I am not a great person at all. I am like either I'm in this good space or I'm in this dark space and nothing in between.
And that isn't just how a lot of people are.
It's how Gemini twins are, son. It's how Gemini twins are.
Uh, there's the what are those two? There's the whole we all have two wolves inside of us. That will quote. One is peaceful. Oh, and then there's yin and yang. That twin mythology exists in like everything,
Everything.
and it refers to everybody. We all have two. It's even like in
Duality of
theater.
personalities. Dual
Everybody,
personalities. Yeah.
yeah, you have who you are with yourself and who you are with other people. That's just kind of a natural. That's a natural setting that most human beings are set at. And then astrology comes in here. Is like if you're born in a certain time, we're all. If you're a Virgo, you're more studious. We can be studious when we want to be studious. Everybody. Now it sounds like I'm protesting too much.
Yeah. That's probably the dark twin in you of your Gemini side.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well.
I love you so much. I definitely have to go, honey, because I have this game tonight. But I
Okay.
wanted to get to the bottom of one last topic for the podcast today is as I've been roaming around the softball stadium, like people stop, they're so sweet. They're like, "Hey, Holly, we're big fans." So I've had a few fans shout out about they're big fans of the new podcast and they're listening to our
Hey,
podcast.
look at that.
And I have had three or more
Oh
strangers from
no.
the seats of the softball stadium ask me if you have your passport yet. So It's now been 1 year since you since you theoretically applied through the passport.
No.
Um, Update the
Well,
listeners.
I did one application. It has not been a year. I sent it in November, so it has been 8 months. Uh, okay, I'll call him. I'll
So
call
is
him.
that not, you say this every time that you're going to call on the passport.
And then I forget. It just, it doesn't stick in my head.
So that's a no. I can update the fans in the stands here at the Women's College World Series that yes, indeed, you do not have your passport.
I appreciate the listenership. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks. You hear the tone in my voice. Thanks a
A
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
And on that note, my darling, I love you.
I love you
I hope I
too.
see you soon.
I'll
And
see you next week. I'll see you soon.
and happy birthday month.
Happy birthday month.
Happy birthday
Mine's
month to us.
I'm the first birthday. I'm excited. I'm apathetic. I don't know. I'm not super excited about this birthday.
You
You
should
know?
be, as a cancer survivor. Here's what I've learned: be super excited about every birthday that you are
Yeah.
afforded on this world.
It's interesting we're talking about failures on the before, like right before, not right before. But you can say, why can't we say when our birthdays are?
I don't think it's good personal security, personal security theft, identity theft.
But you can Google when our birthdays are.
I don't know that.
Yeah, you can Google. But my birthday, they have my birthday and where I was born in like articles about you.
I don't have all the answers.
We
I
won't
don't have
say
all
it. We
the
won't
answers.
say it. It's just I'm surprised that you're like, don't say it. But I'm just like, but they know. But
Oh,
what was I gonna keep all this in, Robbie? This is good stuff. What was I gonna say? But no, it's just I'm coming to the end of my 20s, and it's just like anytime I like close my eyes, I'm just like it's just like a greatest hits of my 20s, and I'm just like, oh god.
so this is a real talk. This is real talk right here. If you want to hear it, when I was your age, so the age that you will be turning in June is the same age I was when I had you, when I became a mother. Can you imagine having a child right now?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not saying I want grandchildren right now. But I am saying let's
You
get going on it.
say you say you want them all the time.
I
You
do.
said
I
you want
really
them
want
to my current
grandbabies.
girlfriend. Yeah, I know. It's
I
she.
want grandbaby. I'm so grandbaby hungry, but I don't want to influence what you do with your life, whatever. But just know that I will be the world's best grandma.
Well,
And on that, I love you and goodbye. And
I
everybody
love you
tune
too.
in and
Everybody
watch the
watch the
Women's
world.
College World Series this week.
Yes, it's a big one. And I love you. Goodbye.
I love you. Goodbye.